roughly 2 million living species have been identified on this planet, and far more have yet to be described. However, paleontology shows that life was once very different from today, with the planet previously being home to a vast array of strange and exotic life forms. Yet even the entirety of Earth's evolutionary history is just a tiny fraction of evolution's nearly limitless potential. Speculative biology is a genre of fiction that seeks to explore these biological possibilities and oddities. The genre follows hard science fiction qualities but often ponders alternative evolutionary scenarios, such as what life could be like on other worlds, or even what the descendants of today's flora and fauna may look like. Many speculative biology projects exist online, but you can find an amazing selection of artists and their projects in Astrovitae magazine. Astrovitae is a free, online magazine with an aim to bring the creators of world-building projects together to show off their work to a wider audience and foster collaboration. Most of the projects featured in Astrovitae magazine, from conceptualization to the conduction of research, are entirely made by the artists themselves. Contributors can submit articles about their projects, providing a detailed look into their unique alien planets or biomes. The magazine releases biannually, with a new issue planned to release every April and September. Astrovitae articles are split up into 3 main categories: Captivating Worlds, the Artist Spotlight, and the Creature Compendium. The first category is Captivating Worlds, and is the primary content Astrovitae has to offer. It's where artists showcase their unique world, biomes, and interesting creatures. It's the largest type of article featured in the magazine, and the one with the most detailed representations about a speculative project. The second category is Artist Spotlight. This tends to be a bit less of a refined article, and instead focuses more on what occurs behind the scenes of a speculative project. This section gives artists an opportunity to share their creative process, design philosophy, and where they go to seek inspiration, and are also allowed to be able to show off sketches and unfinished pieces of their art. Lastly, there is a Creature Compendium. This section is exactly how it sounds. It is a collection of various creatures created by many different artists. These creatures are often accompanied by a brief description that gives the reader a small snippet into another speculative biome and world. Each article in Astrovitae has several icons above the title. These serve as guides for what type of content it explores. These include the setting, such as whether it focuses on alien worlds or paleontology, to what it emphasizes, such as the environment or microorganisms. The magnifying glass icon indicates the article prioritizes conceptualization, while the microscope icon indicates that the article places a greater emphasis on research and plausibility. Next, this video will give an overview of 6 of the world-building projects featured in Astrovitae. It is important to remember that these are merely brief overviews of much larger articles, which are themselves often introductions to smaller pieces of greater world-building projects. The first project that will be highlighted is the Alternate Cenozoic Project by Thien and Nguyen. It's not the first speculative biology project to wonder what the world would be like if the non-avian dinosaurs hadn't died out. Unlike most, the Alternate Cenozoic Project doesn't take place in an isolated location where the dinosaurs miraculously survived, nor a world where the KPG extinction event never happened. Instead, the infamous meteor was smaller, but combined with a later mass extinction, many iconic clades still died out, including the tyrannosaurids, sauropods, and all but a few ceratosaurs. Instead, less famous groups of dinosaurs have replaced them as the world's primary megafauna, including the ornithomimosaurs, parkosaurs, and troodontids, who have become the new top predators. Most of the creatures the project explores are primarily from its version of the modern day, the Holocene epoch. The Alternate Cenozoic Project is explored in more depth in Issue 2, and art from it also appears in Issue 3. Issue 2 of Astrovitae showcases a project from the founder and editor-in-chief of the magazine, Domenic Pennetta. His speculative project, called Project Perditus, explores a planet analogous to Earth called Perditus C. The article focuses on a clade of fish-like marine organisms called feather tongues. These organisms are categorized by their slender-shaped bodies, multiple gill slits, and most notably, a hydrovascular cavity that allows the animal to simultaneously breathe while filter feeding. The feather tongue's oral apparatus is a feather-like feeding crown. One group of feather tongues, the butterfly whales, possess broadened feeding crowns adapted to capturing the most plankton possible. Some smaller species, such as the barbell tongues, possess 2 feeding crowns. Lastly, the most fearsome and recently diverging group of feather tongues are the quill tongues. The feeding tendrils of these creatures have become a sharp barb or barbs, which they use to harpoon prey. The article in Astrovitae focuses not just on the feather tongues themselves, but also details their evolution from creatures called dartworms. Issue 2 of Astrovitae also has an article about the Artechocene Project by Alejandro Martinez Fluxa. Much like the famous program The Future is Wild, it speculates how life may bounce back after a human-induced mass extinction. The article in Astrovitae is about a new clade descended from today's sea snakes, named the Cenozoians, who have filled the void left by the extinction of the marine mammals and a number of fish. They have evolved both fins and massive size, becoming a more realistic take on the sea serpents of myth. Most Cenozoians are Tiamats, a clade whose adult stage live as filter feeders. However, Tiamat juveniles are pursuit predators, like their ancestors. By the time the Artechocene Project takes place, the only non-Tiamat Cenozoians left are the surfish, who belong to the genus Parasitophis. Surfish remain pursuit predators throughout their lives and have retained the venom of their ancestors. Issue 3 of Astrovitae contains an article about Project Temere by Michal Janovský. The article focuses on the Salaš plains, an alien ecosystem which is heavily inspired by the African savannas. However, the Salaš plains have been shaped with strong symbiotic relationships. The hollow trunks of the gigantic coliba trees provide shelter for eusocial carnivores called velox, whose waste is used by the coliba trees as fertilizer. Some of this fertilizer, combined with moisture captured from the air, seeps into the groundwater around the trees. This allows the nearby plants and the herbivores that feed on them to prosper throughout the year. The velox have also formed mutualistic relationships with some of these herbivores, protecting them in exchange for food. Another alien world inspired by Paleozoic marine life is Planet Polinices by J.J. Aniorte. An article in Issue 3 focuses on the clade Polyzoa, the dominant clade on Polinices. While the polyzoans may look reminiscent of modern marine life, they are actually colonial organisms, meaning their bodies are made of multiple connected but separate organisms. Examples of colonial organisms from the real world include corals and Portuguese man-of-war. The article in Astrovitae gives a brief overview of 3 of the 7 Polyzoa clades. One of these, Nguyen, is unique because each organism in the colony, called a zooid, shares the same digestive tract. Most Nguyen have shells and are mobile. In contrast, polyzoans belonging to the order Aniorte have instead evolved to become primarily sedentary. Most projects featured in Astrovitae take place in worlds different from our own, whether in an alternate timeline or on an alien planet. Speculative Radiodonts by Meszaros, which appears in Issue 3, instead seeks to explore a gap in our knowledge regarding the evolution of Radiodonta, including the iconic Anomalocaris. The Radiodonts were an extinct clade related to anthropods, which had a pair of large appendages in the front of their mouths. While they were presumed to have gone extinct during the Cambrian period, that changed in 2009, when a new species of radiodont named Chenterhanus bartelsi was discovered in rocks from the early Devonian. This was nearly 100 million years after the presumed extinction of Radiodonta, which inspired Meszaros to speculate how other members of that resulting ghost lineage may have changed over that time. The resulting art includes stationary predators such as the stone shrimp, the parasitic mustache ghoul shrimp, and filter feeders such as the bearded Sedicaris. While most radiodonts known to science in 2009 were large predators, discoveries made since then have vindicated the more ecologically diverse radiodonts by Meszaros. For instance, the radiodont Agirocasis was an actual filter feeder and even lived during the Ordovician period, 20 million years after the end of the Cambrian period. The creatures and ecosystems found here are but a small taste of what is present in Astrovitae. If you wish to see more, there's a link to Astrovitae in the description. Issue 4 is set to launch on September 30th. Although it is currently too late to send a submission for issue 4, anyone interested in the genre of speculative biology is welcome to submit their art or speculative project to Astrovitae. If you are interested in submitting work to the magazine, send a snippet of your art to the editor at astrovitaeofficial@gmail.com or see www.astrovitae.com/submissions to review the magazine's submission guidelines and other additional details. Thank you to Domenic Pennetta, the founder and editor of Astrovitae, for helping this video become a reality. Also, a thank you to the other 5 artists whose worlds were showcased in this video: Alejandro Martinez, JJ Aniorte, John Meszaros, Michal Janovský, and Thien and Nguyen. And finally, a thank you to all the other artists who have contributed to Astrovitae and who agreed to have their art featured in the video. I'm your narrator, Michael Downey. Thank you.